Or are we doing another one of those like, oh, let's leave little teases at the beginning
Well,
to keep them,
yes, some people call it a front sale in radio. I apologize. I'm using some of my radio techno terms.
Well, I've been watching movies.
What movies have you been watching?
Well, that's the front sell, Cory. I can't tell you.
You know what? You take something that is just so innocent and you could literally just dirty it up.
Oh, that's what I did to your mom.
Oh. I don't have a mom anymore.
Yeah, not after what I did to her.
I'm an orphan. Oh, you're gonna double down on the mom joke, huh? You're just gonna go ahead and double down on that bitch.
Just like your mom.
Wow. I could see where your level of banter is at this point.
This is why I call the channel Lonercast, because no one really wants to talk to me.
I talk to you all the time, and you do nothing but give me grief and hell.
It's only because I pay you millions of dollars to do this podcast with
You
me.
do not pay me millions of dollars to do this podcast. But I will say that it costs me very little.
It's a sizable amount that I pay you, Cory.
Nothing you have is sizable, Jake.
Oh, your mom would disagree. Goodness. Well, let's start the show.
That'd be a good place.
Hey, boyos.
Hey, boy.
We're still in isolation, and it's still so awkward. I'm Jake. That's Cory. What's up, Cory?
Yo, I am Bob the Builder. I am Dan the drywall man.
Yeah. So what happened to your walls?
Yeah, just right to it. Welcome, everybody.
What happened to them? The walls, Cory.
The walls.
What happened to them?
The walls. What about the walls? So, because of the quarantine and because of this sickness thing that's been going around, it's called COVID-19. Not sure if you've heard of it or not, Jake.
I haven't. Would you like to fill me in?
Yeah, so what happened is that little Chinese man ate a bat's ass, and then he went around and he said hello to everybody. And then they got on the plane and they went back home to their respective countries, and then the whole world ended. The end.
Oh. Wow. I can't believe I hadn't heard of it.
Now that you're caught up, because of the COVID-19 and everybody quarantining in, I don't know if I've ever shared on the Jake and Cory podcast that I don't own a washer and dryer in my home.
I don't know why you would have shared that, but...
Well, we share things about ourselves.
Like never mind. Just keep going.
Thank you very much. So I've never owned a washer and a dryer, and the reason why, short story, is that I did the math one day, and that it's actually a money saver for me to load my laundry up in my car, drive to a laundromat, spend $5 in a laundry machine and dryer, fold my clothes, and drive back home. It is cheaper than owning a washer and dryer when I factored in the average amount of money that it will be used in water, electricity, and repair and upkeep of owning a washer and dryer. So with the quarantine,
but did you factor in your vehicle and driving?
Yes, I factored in the vehicle, the driving,
okay.
and the distance that I drove, all of that.
But did you factor in convenience?
I did not factor in convenience, which would definitely skew the numbers in favor of owning a washer and dryer, because it is a huge convenience factor. But with that convenience comes a cost.
Correct.
So with the quarantine, I have thrown around the idea of purchasing a washer and dryer. Now, I know people listening to this are probably saying, oh my God, dude, I'm trying to find shit tickets and you're out washer and drying shopping. I understand, but just
I can't find toilet paper.
yeah, just follow me for a second here. But so my house is 32 years old. The home that I live in is 32 years old. And a lot of its stuff is its original stuff. The things that are like important have been upgraded, like the hot water heater, the air conditioning and stuff like that. But my washer and dryer, which is in my laundry room, I have never touched in the 10 years that I've owned the house. So it has, when I moved in, a few months after I moved in, I knew I wasn't going to get a washer and dryer. So literally all I did was I just piled stuff up in front of the connections on the wall and everything like that. Well, with the quarantine, I'm trying to interview the idea of getting a washer and dryer. So I went to revisit those connections to see if they were still viable, if they still worked. And in my process...
So you put them on your tongue.
So yeah, like a battery. I stuck my tongue to the spigots located on the wall in my laundry room. So I went to see if they're viable. And when you break the seal of something that has been laid dormant for the last 10 years, there's a high probability that you're not going to be able to seal it up again. And that's exactly what happened when I turned on one of the spigots, they would not go off.
Uh-oh.
So, yes, I still have water flowing to that spigot. I just couldn't get it to turn off. So I put I connected a little 3-foot long water hose that I have. I connected it to the spigot and put the hose down in the bucket, and some of the water was running through, but not all of the water. It was still leaking into my wall.
Uh-oh.
So I had to make an emergency call. Luckily, here we go with another, I know a guy. I called a friend that is a plumber.
He gave you a rough estimate, right?
And he gave me a solid estimate, and he agreed to come out and fix the leak, but it was going to take him a day and a half to get out here. So what I ended up having to do is that me and my son were taking shifts over the course of I want to say 32 hours of going in the laundry room and changing out the wet towel for a dry towel that was catching the leak. So it was a disaster. So while it was leaking, of course, it ruined the drywall that was around it. Luckily, it didn't make it to any of the wood studs in the wall. Thank God it didn't make it to that. But I ended up having to replace a lot of the drywall, and I've never done drywall work before. So
You did it yourself.
I did it myself. So my friend came out, replaced the plumbing, upgraded it all, but it left this, like, I want to say, probably about a 32-inch hole in the drywall that he had to cut through the wall to, cut the pipes, refinish them, recap them. So all I was left with this beautiful new spigots and wall unit, but it was at the cost and the sacrifice of the drywall. We had to remove the wet drywall, of course, and then we had to, he had to cut more drywall out of the way because the 32-year-old spigots, that spacing wasn't big enough for the new 2020 upgraded wall spigots. So we had to make more room.
It sounds like you had a fun week.
It was actually a challenge, but it was fun. So I did the Home Depot home delivery thing. I went on Home Depot after YouTubing the hell out of how to do drywall. YouTube the hell out of it. How everybody was doing it. I probably watched maybe 2.5 hours of YouTube videos of people fixing and patching holes in their drywall. I knew what to order. So I went on the Home Depot's website through a link on a well-known website called FatGuyRadioShow.com, and ordered,
shameless plug,
and ordered everything, and they delivered it to the front door. Everything I needed. I got those little 2-foot squares of drywall patch which is like just 2 feet of just drywall, and the drywall putty, and then you know how you have to do the spackle, like some walls have texture on them. Those little spackle things, they come in a can. You got it in a can. I ordered paint supplies. Luckily, I had some paint left over that matches my interior walls. And for those of you that are homeowners out there, if you have not taken a sample of your wall to Home Depot to get a color match and just have that laying around, do it. It always comes in handy when you got a hole in the wall. So I had that. Dude, it was so much fun cutting the drywall, nailing it in. I bought like this box of 350 drywall screws only to use 3. It was amazing.
It sounds like a good time. It sounds like a good way to kill some time during this.
It took
thing.
It took me 3 days. The leak happened on Tuesday afternoon. The plumber arrived on Thursday afternoon. Was done in about a couple of hours. I got the supplies from Home Depot were delivered Friday morning. I started Friday afternoon, and I just finished the first coat of paint about an hour before we did this show.
Wow, sounds like fun. I've I've been trying to kill time myself over here. So I decided to go into my laundry room and decided to cause a leak in my wall as well.
Did you leak? Did your wall leak, or did you just take a leak on the wall?
Well, I actually got the hose from downstairs.
Okay.
I brought it up, and I just started squirting my wall in my laundry room.
Just watch that bitch down.
Yeah, quarantine's really gotten to me, I needed something to do, so I decided to do that. And I said, while I'm at it, might as well do the rest of the house.
Yeah.
So I squirted the whole walls, everything got ruined. So I decided, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fix up these walls that I ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, then I thought, I'm kind of sleepy. So
yeah. And you're in a rental space, so that really goes over well with the people that actually own the property you're in.
Oh, I mean, they can't come here right now anyway.
Right, because they're quarantined.
Right, they don't have to know. I mean, if they come back and I'm gone by the time they come back, what are they going to do?
Probably change the locks is what I'm going to bet on, but I understand where you're going with this.
No, but for real, the hose, they're not that long. And so, like, trying to get that all throughout my house, it was, a real struggle.
I'm sure that it was. Thank you for just absolutely adding validity to my triumphant story of home repair.
Very triumphant.
It is, and yeah, I thought it was triumphant. It was something I'm not known as the handyman.
Have you been watching any television, any movies, anything like that?
No, I haven't.
I know you're a big sports guy.
Yeah, and there's no sports. And the only move that I've made in the last week since the last show, the only move that I've made is actually canceling my sports package with Cox Communications. There's no reason to have it right now.
Have you seen what the NBA has been doing, though?
They've been re-airing and playing video versions of the NBA, but that's all on Twitch, and Twitch is free. I'm paying $12 extra a month for the sports package with Cox Communications, and I found that there was just no need to have it anymore.
But they're actually having some of the players play like NBA 2K20.
Yeah, tonight it's Brittany Griner from the Phoenix Mercury, and another WNBA player that is playing the Suns in 2K on I know people listen. This show has a long tail on Saturday, April 11th. So the WNBA players are getting in on that.
Yeah, I think that's great, man. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, but here's what's happening right now is that the Phoenix Suns are being played by Brittany Griner and another WNBA player, but then also Devin Booker is streaming him playing Halo.
Hell yeah, he is.
So you got he's causing his own competition. Do I watch the NBA game, the Phoenix Suns virtual game, or do I watch Devin Booker? And on another note, Jake, before you get to that, the Suns are playing in the world of virtual on 2K, and we're still losing. We can't even win in the virtual world.
Well, here's what I say to the whole Kevin Booker thing.
Did you say Kevin Booker or Devin Booker?
I said whatever I said.
You said Kevin Booker, you a-hole. It's Devin Booker.
I know it's Devin Booker. I was watching him play 2K whatever this morning, actually. But, why don't you watch both? You can watch both.
Because then I have to have, my laptop out with one Twitch stream on it and the other laptop out, or my iPad out
later
with another. The only thing is you can go back and watch Devin play, but you can't go back and watch the NBA game. And I would love to see. That
answers your question.
Right. I would love to see Brittany Griner play as a Phoenix Suns player.
So you haven't been watching any movies or anything?
No, I've been doing my regular TV thing.
What's in that rotation?
I am a DVR person. It's a lot of Discovery Channel, Naked and Afraid. That season is still going. I have Ellen's Game of Games. That season is also still going. Manifest is a TV show that I have been watching, even though there's only one episode left in the season. And then this new TV show that just came out, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Jailed or something to that nature. And it's about a guy. It's based on a true story, but it's a little trumped up. About a guy that was a nightclub owner, got caught up in a drug ring that was operating out of his nightclub that he wasn't aware of. And he ended up getting the max sentence. So while he's been in jail, he actually became an attorney, and he's representing other inmates and getting their sentences overturned. In the meantime, while he's doing all that, every sentence that he gets unturned is actually a pleat in his cape against his own case getting retrialed. So it's a very interesting series, but the guy that's the lead actor in it, he disturbs me by the way he walks.
That reminds me of that show. Did you ever watch The Blacklist?
I did not watch The Blacklist. I was aware of it, but I did not dive in.
James Spader is just something to marvel at, let me tell you. He is a fantastic actor. I love him to death. Great show.
The Masked Singer on Fox is also in my DVR rotation.
Of course.
It's so funny because the show that I was talking about is called For Life. FORLIFE, For Life. So I literally have the Cox Contour app on my phone, and I can run down what's sitting in my DVR. American Ninja Warrior Jr., Will and Grace the new season.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hot Ones, the game show. Are you familiar with Hot Ones, the game show?
Yeah, that seems like a corporate sellout for Hot Ones, doesn't it?
A little bit, because my son AJ actually hit me to the fact that it was a YouTube show before it became a broadcast radio or broadcast show. So here's the funny thing is that they air Hot Ones, the game show, and then immediately followed by a YouTube version of Hot Ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They actually show the interviews that he does, huh?
They show the interviews, like when they did, what's John Legend's wife's name? Chrissy Teigen?
Yeah, Chrissy Teigen.
Saw Chrissy Teigen, saw a handful of celebrities, and I was so intrigued by it that me and my 19-year-old decided to go into YouTube and watch some of the old clips from back in the day. So yeah, I have Hot Ones.
I just watched the new one with Justin Timberlake that just dropped.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go. That one might be sitting in there. I have to go and watch that one.
The thing I really like about Sean Evans, the guy who hosts Hot Ones,
he's a little awkward, isn't he?
I love him though because he does his research, and every time he does an interview, all the guests are always like, wow, you did your research. It's not even just that it's an interesting format. He's like a legitimately good host. And I'd love to see him one day maybe take one of those late night show host spots.
I could
Because I think he'd be good at it.
I could see that. I find him very entertaining. I find him a little dry at times, but he's dry, but yet it's a refreshing take on the level of show that he's doing, because that type of show with people,
I think
he allows the contestants to shine. And
he's really good at reading his guests.
Yes.
He's really good at reading them. He can read the room.
He allows them to shine, which in turn makes the show greater, because there's a lot of people that don't go and watch talk shows or game shows for the host. You know, and that reminds me of David Letterman. David Letterman allowed guests on his show to be who they are. He set them up. He created the environment for them to be the best. So I can kind of see that in the host of Hot Ones.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel that about Conan O'Brien as well. He's just good at making all guests seem funny, you know?
Yeah, seem real.
He's so funny himself, he can make unfunny people really funny. So
now, who's the little nerd from Saturday Night Live that has the Late Show right now? Jimmy Fallon.
That's the Tonight Show, but
The Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon. Where do you stand on Jimmy Fallon as the host of the Tonight Show?
You know, I think a lot of people give Jimmy Fallon a lot of shit. But I think he's doing a fine job. It's not for me, but I don't think the Tonight Show should be for me. I think he does a fine job. He makes he has fun with the guests. He's not the greatest interviewer, but he's kind of found his own niche, and I think he's done a good job at it.
See, and you're right in two aspects. One, the Tonight Show originally wasn't geared towards your age group, but Jimmy Fallon is trying to make it geared towards your age group, and it doesn't work. He's so plastic. He's like I would classify him as Ace Ventura Pet Detective on pot. He's trying his best to be wild and wacky, but he just can't get there because of some type of substance holding him back.
I think like the age range for like the Tonight Show and the Late Show, which is hosted by Stephen Colbert now.
Yes.
I love talking about late night hosts. I think it's such a fascinating thing. There's so many so many intricacies when it comes to late night shows, and such a storied history. So I really enjoy late night hosts and talk shows and stuff.
Are you a big late night show consumer, watcher?
I used to be back in the day, like back when it was David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno. I didn't watch a lot of Jay Leno, but Craig Ferguson was always my favorite, though. I loved Craig Ferguson. He was hilarious, dude.
All right.
But I've always thought that like the Tonight Show always, because it's a little earlier, it's at about 9 o'clock,
Okay.
9, 10 o'clock. I always kind of thought that age range was the older demographic or the very young demographic. And then the show that's on afterwards is the one that's trying to get the, 20-somethings,
Is it me, or does it seem like the late night TV shows are now on later? Or is it just that there's just so many of them? You got late night, you got the Late Show, the Late Show. I'm like, It just seems like there's just so many out there, where back in my day, because there is an age.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, Sonny, there used to be just 3 big late night TV hosts: David Letterman and Jay Leno, and then Conan O'Brien came out of the ranks, and that was about it. Those were the 3. Now I just
but it
Googled
was
it,
always,
and there's like 50 of them.
but like, you know, back in like Johnny Carson days, I tried to talk like Johnny Carson there. I don't know if it came across.
No,
Um, Back in the Johnny Carson days.
no, that's not it. That's not
Okay,
it.
I'll never do that again.
Abort, abort.
Hey, Cory.
You're just gonna go ahead and double down on that bitch, aren't you?
Back in my day, no, back in the Johnny Carson days, you know, on after Johnny Carson was David Letterman, right? So it was Carson, then Letterman,
Yes.
and then Letterman was supposed to take over for Carson, but they gave it to Jay Leno instead. Leno and then Letterman ended up going opposite Leno on a different network, CBS.
I think it was CBS
right?
versus NBC.
Right. So then Conan took Letterman's spot. And then on after Letterman, they had Craig Kilburn.
Yes.
Craig Kilburn left, and he went on to do The Daily Show. No, he did The Daily Show first. Then he did the Late Late Show. Oh, God, there's such a history there, right?
And the most storied history is the David Letterman, Jay Leno, Johnny Carson thing. That's had documentaries made of it because it was just so messed up from the floor up.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see those same documentaries about the whole Conan O'Brien thing because the same thing happened to Conan.
Yeah, Conan, I would agree, Conan got screwed. Conan got screwed, and he ended up going to TBS.
Yeah.
You know, which was a cable
sucks.
network because he got screwed by one of the big networks. I mean, it's ridiculous when you look at some of the stories. I think David Letterman got screwed from the beginning, but I think at the end of the day, David Letterman won out.
Yeah, because he ended up probably making more than he would have at the Tonight Show.
Oh, 100%. And his show, in my opinion, was 10 times better than Jay Leno.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, his show was great. His show was super good, all the way until the end, really. Same with Conan. Conan was great, and I just stopped watching because it went to TBS, and it just wasn't the same. Yeah, I don't know. I like the history of late night talk shows. You know, even the Daily Show is like part of that late night talk show thing. Arsenio Hall.
The Arsenio Hall. Now, do you go back in your late night talk show files in your mind? Do you go back to the days of Ed Sullivan and Merv Griffin?
Yeah, I mean, I know about those guys. Obviously, I wasn't really like around for them,
right?
But like,
because David Letterman did his show in the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, and now, Stephen Colbert does his in there.
Stephen Colbert is in there now. But you know what? I remember when David Letterman went off the air because I used to mimic David Letterman so much. I loved his comedy style. I loved his storytelling. And I would mimic him all the way down to him taking a pencil and tapping it on his desk microphone. And he would read a joke, and if the joke was bad, he'd throw a card over his shoulder into the set behind him. And then I actually had a friend of mine who I filmed indie project with, who became an intern for David Letterman before he went off the air. So that was a really cool thing to see. But David Letterman was my shining star out of all of the late night talk show hosts because he was in my wheelhouse at that time. He was the most prominent one next to Jay Leno when I was growing up.
For me, you know, Conan is definitely that guy for me, but like Craig Ferguson is so underappreciated because his show, every time he started a show and he had a guest on, he would start by ripping up the cue cards and he would just throw them behind him, and he wasn't the most professional guy, but that's what like made his show the funniest thing ever because he would just fuck around with the guest. He had a talking skeleton as his co-host.
I remember that.
They had a dancing horse. Like that show was so good. But I think one of the saddest late night show stories is one that people don't really talk about as a sad story, but I view it as a sad story because it's sad personally. One of my favorite talk shows, late night talk shows of all time, was The Colbert Report. It was the funniest show ever. And like Stephen Colbert's like he was like a weird sort of pseudo Republican. He was like mocking Republicans. Like it was on during that time that Bill O'Reilly was around. So he was just being opposite Bill O'Reilly and just being like a ridiculous amped up version of Bill O'Reilly. And the show was amazing. Like if he had a guest on, instead of the guest walking out and everyone clapping to the guest, he would walk he would walk over to the guest and have the audience clap for him. Like like he was so hilarious. And then he went over to Letterman's spot. He picked up Letterman's spot, and I was excited because I'm like, Colbert is hilarious, dude. Like this dude is legitimately hilarious. And he went over there, and it's the most milquetoast, boring sack of shit show I've ever watched. And like all he talks about is how Trump is bad, and like it's like, dude, you were funny once. What happened? And I don't know.
He kind of lost his edge a little bit. Now we're sleeping on the big one, and I thought you were going to bring him up, but the big guy right now, the one that is the most, I would say, at the top of most people's minds, because he has the gimmick that is like the most viral gimmick on the planet, with karaoke car karaoke.
Yeah, James Corden.
James Corden. Where do you stand on pudgy James Corden?
You know what? I like James Corden. I think he's fun. I think he's cute. It's not really for me, but I will say he has the best band leader. He has Reggie Watts as his band leader, and Reggie Watts is amazing. If you've never watched Reggie Watts' stand-up comedy, it's hilarious. He's a musical genius. He does all this looping stuff. He used to be on this show. It was like a talk show, but it was like a surreal talk show, almost making fun of talk shows. It was called Comedy Bang Bang.
Okay, I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, and when Reggie Watts left, they had Weird Al Yankovic take his place. But yeah, that show was great. I don't know. James Corden's all right. I like the carpool karaoke things. Some of them are pretty interesting. I like that he has all of his guests out at the same time on the couch. I think it opens it up to a more interesting conversation when you have every guest out there. It's very much like that British late night talk show host, Graham Norton.
Okay, I'm familiar with Graham Norton.
It's a lot like that, but Graham Norton's show is basically just an hour long of pure interview, where James Corden still has that American flavor, where he comes out and does a monologue. They have the segments.
You don't think it's over the top?
It's, like I said, it's not really for me.
James Corden show, right?
Yeah, but like you got to remember, James Corden really only started maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and he's already like one of the most viral stars. Also, I don't know how that guy has time to do all the stuff he's doing. He does a late night talk show every night.
Yep.
He is in multiple movies every year. I see him in commercials. I'm like, what? How? He was in Cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, man.
I don't find him funny. I find it Saturday, his jokes are like Saturday Night Live skits gone awry. And the carpool karaoke thing, when he doesn't have a singer in his car. I think those are more entertaining. Like when he had Michelle
I
Obama.
really loved the Paul McCartney one.
I mean, it's okay, but I like it when he puts someone that's not a singer in the singer, like especially like a political figure, like a Michelle Obama. I saw the Michelle Obama carpool karaoke, but then again, I also like the Adam Levine one was pretty cool, but the one that really sticks out in my mind was the Celine Dion carpool karaoke, because Celine Dion in herself, she's just an amazing person. She has an amazing personality. She's kooky, she's quirky, and she's a phenomenal singer. She's one of my favorite artists of all times.
Yeah, she's great.
But for the most part, the carpool karaoke thing, I think he's beat that horse to the point where it's not even glue
I really
anymore.
enjoyed the Billie Eilish one as well. I thought that one was really great.
Her and her boyfriend brother.
Oh my God, here we go again. I want to insert a picture of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. There's that meme where he's like, "Ah, shit, here we go again." Sorry.
I know a guy.
I know he kind of has drove it into the ground, but like that's kind of what late night shows are.
Do you think that the late night towel
because
has been wrung tight? There's nothing new that they can do.
Well, you gotta remember back to like even Jay Leno. He did the headlines thing. He definitely drove that into the ground. But
his headline news segment?
Yeah, he did that forever and ever and ever.
But news changes on a daily basis, so there's no way to drive
so
that into the ground.
So do the artists that he brings in, It's
so are you thinking that the late night gimmick, the late night talk show idea, there's nothing new that these people can do anymore?
Well, it's just you have a show every night. You're doing a show every night.
Yes.
They're not all going to be winners. You have to look at it as a whole and not just as a singular thing. So, I don't know. I think on the whole, I think James Corden's all right. He does a carpool karaoke like once a month. Like it's not like he does it every single day.
Right.
And it's basically just to get those YouTube clicks. And
he has more YouTube subscribers, more YouTube views than he does broadcast format of his show.
That's the case with all of them now, because no one has broadcast TV anymore.
So I think they should go off the air and just be online. It's cheaper.
Well, they can't do that because of the advertisers, and these networks still exist, and they need those big shows to still exist. But
speaking of polls, I have two more late night talk show hosts that I wanted to bring to you and see. Since you're all in on this, I'm kind of like turning the tables and interviewing Jake here. Where do you stand on Chelsea Handler? Female late night talk show host.
So she had a show on E called Chelsea Lately.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
And I was okay with that show. She always had funny comedians on, like Bobby Lee was on all the time. She always had Whitney Cummings, like a lot of really funny and at the time like up and coming comedians. Now they're like big stars, but like, I thought that show was okay. Her one that she had on Netflix though, that show was a travesty. It was a disaster.
Is it still on? Is it still in production?
No, I think it only went on for like a year. That show was terrible. And just being honest, sorry, Chelsea, you seem like an okay person. But
here we go.
Your comedy sucks, dude.
Oh.
I've watched a couple of her stand-up specials. They're not good.
Oh, so, no.
That's where I stand on Chelsea.
All right, last one. This is the weirdest one I think I can pull out of my hat bucket.
Is it Lily Singh?
No, it is not Lily Singh.
Oh, because she's terrible, but we all know that.
Eric Andre.
Oh, so good. He's my favorite one. Dude, I posted a thing on Facebook today, and it was It was a quote from the show, and it's Morpheus drinking a 40 in a death basket. If you've seen the show, everyone that's watched the show is like, aha! Yeah, I love the Eric Andre show.
His show is so out there. I mean, what he does when he destroys his sets is just it's stupid funny. You can't help. It is so awkwardly it's a train wreck, and you can't take your eyes off of it.
Well, and it reminds me of like the old MTV days with like Tom Green.
Yes.
The Tom Green show and like Jackass and stuff like that.
Yes.
It really brings me back to those days. Because it's more of his show is more of like a prank show than it is like a late night show. They just use the late night thing as like an aesthetic, but it's definitely more of a prank show than anything else.
I'm not sure what happened to your audio, but your audio feed to me has dropped out. I can barely hear you.
Oh, it's probably better now. Someone was trying to call me.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So Eric Andre, it's a train wreck, but you can't look away because it's a really cool train wreck.
Well, it's a train wreck on purpose, you know?
And he's not afraid to flash his junk.
Oh, he loves flashing his junk. His junk. I remember when that whole free the nipple thing was going around. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He would always post pictures on Twitter of him saying free the dick, and it would just be him showing his dick off.
Yeah, he's not
hilarious.
He is not ashamed of his body. He when I first was introduced to him, you'll be so surprised at how I learned of Eric Andre. The first time I saw him was on an episode of Ridiculousness. And I was like so enamored by
where do we stand on him as a late night talk show host?
Well, I don't think he even fits into the category. I think he creates his own category because you can't really classify him as a late night talk show host.
You know what his category is? His category is America's Funniest Home Videos.
Or his category is catastrophe on TV.
Tosh.0 again.
Okay, Tosh.0, a TV show that I did frequent only because I hated it so much I couldn't look away. The green screen was over the top. If Tosh himself was not as good looking as he was, I would not have been able to stomach that show. But Eric Andre, when I saw him on an episode of Ridiculousness, and he introduced me to the mangina, where he tucked his junk between his legs, and all you saw was pubes hairs.
Oh, you never saw Clerks then, huh?
No, I didn't. I saw Clerks years ago, but really didn't tie it to Eric Andre doing it. But he did it on Ridiculousness, and I'm like, who is this? And then they showed clips of his show, and I was in from that point on. He's ridiculously stupid.
You know what's crazy about Eric Andre is he was just in The Lion King.
Yes.
He was just in The Lion King.
He's hilarious, man. He's hilarious, and I love and he's a good-looking guy, and he's not afraid to share that with everybody.
Well, and Hannibal Buress, the co-host on that show, he was the guy that sort of outed Bill Cosby, if you remember.
I'm not familiar with that.
So he's the co-host on the Eric Andre show, the one that kind of like stands creepily behind the guests.
Okay.
Like there's that one famous interview where he just stands next to the guests and is eating a head of lettuce.
That's so stupid. Good. It works. That's
but
it works.
He's also a stand-up comedian, and he had a joke in his set that was about Bill Cosby drugging women.
Mm.
And that joke started to become viral, and that's when everyone started to talk about Bill Cosby. It was right around that time. So, yeah, he's a big deal too.
Dude, Eric Andre, his show kind of reminds me of like some of those weird, wacky Chinese challenge shows where they just do weird, stupid stuff. That's where Eric
Yeah,
Andre, where his show kind of seems to go sometimes.
yeah, it's like that Spike TV show. Oh God, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like that show Wipeout. You know?
Yes, Wipeout, where they purposely go out, and now Wipeout is one of my go-tos. I don't DVR it, but when I do see it on at late night, it comes on around 11 o'clock on the weekends, Arizona time, and I will sit and I will tune into Wipeout because they just find the most unathletic people. They're not fat. Not all of them are fat. They're just unathletic, and they purposely put them through this. There is no way you will ever make it through that show without wiping out. They will turn those little what do you want to call them? Those little physical challenges. They will turn those machines up to make it impossible to
It's
make
like bull
it through.
riding.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna crank it up to make sure that you fall. But I don't know,
Yeah.
dude. If Wipeout is on TV, I'm spending time with it. I love the Wipeout show.
I really love that show, America Ninja Warrior.
I'm in on
That
America
one's great.
A&W. I'm all in. I was actually talking to a radio friend of mine. I know a guy, a radio friend of mine in Colorado, and he does the what are those? What's that? Spartan racing. He does the Spartan
Yeah.
racing, and he's been to Arizona to do some of the Spartan races that happen down in the Chandler area. And I told him about, dude, if you're doing Spartan racing, A&W, American Ninja Warrior, is just one more jump. You know what I mean? And you might as well just go ahead and dive into that. But I'm all in with American Ninja Warrior. I watched the kids version. I read it off in my DVR list, and I watched the adult version, even though it's out of season right now. But yeah, American Ninja Warrior, I'm all in with Matt Eisman and Akbar Bajabiamila. All in, buddy.
I know we've kind of moved on, but I feel like we'd be remiss because we didn't even really talk about him. When it comes to late night talk show hosts, we didn't even mention Jon Stewart.
I thought we did.
Maybe briefly, but he really is one of the most important late night talk show hosts, I think.
I would say that he's one of the trailblazers, absolutely.
Just by the pure numbers of people that came out of that show. Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, Steve Carell came out of that show. The list goes on of people who used to work there.
And the reason why Jon Stewart is so pivotal in the late night talk is because he did a lot of what Johnny Carson did. Johnny Carson was responsible for launching people like David Letterman, like Jay Leno, like Roseanne, like Dolly Parton,
Joan Rivers.
All of these really big comedians and trailblazers are if you could get on the Johnny Carson show and I think the trick was if he invited you over to the couch. If Johnny Carson invited you over to the couch, you were just going to slide right in to Hollywood.
Well, and Jon Stewart just had this amazing cast of writers that worked on the show. Rob Riggle was one of them. I mean, like, just an amazing lineup of people that worked there.
Wasn't Chelsea Handler a writer for Jon Stewart?
Maybe. I'm not sure, honestly.
Because I know there's a couple of late night talk show hosts that were writers on his show that are now...
What a lot of people forget about Jon Stewart is he actually started out as a more traditional late night talk show host before he went into the more political daily show. Because he had a show called The Jon Stewart Show back on MTV back in the 90s.
I recall that.
Yeah, and that was a more traditional sort of late night talk show. It was still a little bit more edgy because it was on MTV. They'd have rock stars on and shit like that. But then he went the more political route, and I gotta say, he was great because he was political, but it seemed like he was always able to not make it very vitriolic. Mm-hmm. Where it seems like a lot of people these days, if they have a political type of comedy show like that, it always becomes a bit vitriolic and nasty. And that's sort of what I feel when I watch like the Colbert Show now or the Late Show. It always just feels a little nasty, and it's like it's not really funny. You're just kind of talking shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas like Jon Stewart, it always felt pretty funny. I feel like John Oliver is kind of close because he always kind of tries to keep it more on the funny side. But like even the new guy that took over for the Daily Show, Trevor Noah. He even seems I like him. I will say I like him, but it seems like sometimes he gets a little skewed into that like sort of vitriolic, nasty tendencies.
Now, let me ask you this, Jake. It might just be me, and I might stand alone on this, but when you mentioned Trevor Noah, I don't know how I feel about accepting someone that is not of this country criticizing this country's government. And you and I get political quite often on this show, but I don't know how I don't know when I see Trevor Noah and like James Corden that are English, when they come and they kind of, I don't know, they kind of spit that vitriol that you're talking about in regards to politics. That doesn't sit so well with me, because if anything, why don't you attack or why don't you spit some of that towards your home country's political figures? I don't know. Trevor Noah, I like him in his comedy, but when he's criticizing our government, it doesn't sit well with me.
Well, I don't know. I mean, John Oliver does the same thing.
Yeah.
But I will say, John Oliver is an American citizen. You know, he's lived here long enough that he is an American citizen. I don't know about Trevor Noah or James Corden. James Corden's show, one of the reasons I like it is because he never really gets political, which is one of the reasons I like that show.
Right. But Trevor Noah is very well known, and he has, even to this day, has, gone after especially Trump. And I'm not defending Trump. I'm defending American politics, coming against someone that was born in South Africa.
Well, I'll just say this. He lives here now, and we're a country built off of immigrants. So, I mean, he lives here. He probably fancies himself an American now. He lives in the culture. He has embraced the culture.
He's good looking. I'll give him that. He's a good looking guy.
Yeah, that too.
But it just doesn't
even
sit
if you
right with
but
me.
like even if you go back and watch his old school comedy stuff, he always got a bit political, and that just sort of seems to be his shtick. Is he's a little political, and he comes from a place, I don't remember exactly where in Africa, but like
Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay, and it has a lot of its own political issues, and he has discussed it openly on the show, both on the show and in his stand-up comedy. So, I mean, I think it's fair, especially since in America's politics have a lot to do with the rest of the world's politics. Our politics affects the rest of the world's politics.
It does. And you what you say is true. I don't know. It just doesn't sit. It doesn't just sit well with me for some reason.
It is a little strange that they would replace a show like that with someone from not here, but I don't really have an issue with it, honestly. I would have preferred if they called it something different, though, because to me, The Daily Show is Jon Stewart's show.
Right.
Even though he wasn't the first host, but the host before him was only the host for like a year, maybe 2 years. He was the host for like 20 years. So to me, that show is Jon Stewart's show. So it would be like Colbert leaving the Colbert Report, and then someone coming in and being like, "I'm the new Colbert," and it's like, well, you're not, though.
Or the Jake and Cory podcast getting new hosts, and their names are Frank and Beans.
Right, yeah.
It just
So
doesn't work.
that's really my only issue with Trevor Noah is like I wish they called it something else, but I understand they just wanted that brand recognition.
Right. I don't know.
I don't really
I
have an
like
issue
him.
with him.
I mean, he's okay, but when he does his political stuff, it just kind of comes at me the wrong way. One thing that I've noticed with like
That's the whole show, dog.
that is right. The one thing that I've noticed lately, and it might just be me, but our Governor Ducey, who has pretty much
More like
been
Governor Douchey, am I right?
well, you know what? The way that he's kind of handled this COVID-19 thing, I can't really give him the mantle of douchey right now because I thought he's done a pretty good job. It could
He's
have been
done
a
all
little
right.
better, but I thought he's done a pretty good job. But one thing that I've noticed peeping out some of these press conferences with these political characters, especially with Governor Ducey and, of course, with, Orange Face down in Washington, D.C.,
China.
is it just me or are these journalists really aggressive? You mentioned the vitriol. Are these journalists like I don't remember journalists being so damn hammery with their questions
I think it has a lot to do with the guy in the office.
that they're
Um,
just that they I mean and I don't even and this is going to sound like I'm defending Orange Face and I'm really not, but there are some journalists that sit there and throw a question at them, and when they don't get the answer that they particularly want, they throw it at them again harder, and then they throw it at, and I'm like, I don't remember journalism being that aggressive.
well, I think there's multiple reasons. Um, I think a big reason is from the very beginning, Trump has gone after journalists. So the journalists are kind of like, fuck you, pal. And then on top of that, Trump is just an asshole. So, I mean, like, it's hard not to, you know?
But what
We gotta
about
we gotta call him out on his bullshit, and I think the only people that really have access to him to call him out on his bullshit, besides his yes men that are all around him, are the journalists. So
what about our Governor Ducey? There was a press conference that he held, I want to say on Wednesday or Thursday of this week's past. And it just seemed like they asked him a question about, you know, is his office willing to release numbers of people that have recovered from COVID-19? And he gave a very political response, which was a safe response. And then the journalist just came back at him, and then the journalist came back at him, cutting him off, not allowing him to finish what he was saying, and it came back at him, kind of like our show last week, and just kept coming at him, and just, I mean, until he literally, like one of his handlers or someone just kind of shut the reporter down and moved on to another question. I can understand and wrap my mind around it happening to Orange Face, but
yeah,
I don't see why. I'm like, when did journalism become so aggressive?
I think. Well, I think this is a multifaceted question as well. Not to say I have all the answers, but listen closely, my child. Um,
Hear these words
um,
that I speak unto thee.
this is my body. It is Easter. No, I think part of it is the fact that we have Trump in office makes everyone a little bit more on edge, right?
True.
The second part of it is we're in the middle of a pandemic, which puts everyone on edge. I have noticed that in my personal life. Just saying the most basic shit just pisses people off right now, and I kind of understand. You know, it's just where we're at right now. The other part of it is it's also local journalism, and maybe, and I'm not trying to talk shit about Arizona journalists, but you know, I'd say if you're working local journalism, you're probably not top tier. Not all of them are, at least.
Not all of them. There are some ones that are out there.
So
and
you're
I will
gonna
say
find some bad eggs in there.
the top tier ones. Number one, they don't do these. They're behind a desk. They're not out there doing the press conferences.
Well, some people like that guerrilla political journalism stuff. But
Guerrilla journalism. That's a perfect title. Guerrilla journalism. There's nothing soft about it. It's all about I'm going to get all the bananas in the forest or I'm going to burn the forest down. That's a perfect way to put it. Guerrilla journalism.
yeah, well, it's because it's like man on the street sort of shit, you know?
I agree. But
Yeah.
it's just something that I peeped out these last few weeks where it just seems like they're just way too overly aggressive. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think
you
I
could
think
go
you
back
attract
to
more you attract more flies with honey than you do vinegar. But then also there is a saying that goes with that you can also attract more flies with a lot of horse shit.
yeah. I mean, but like that's one journalist, you know, and you could go back to any era, Bush era especially. There was a lot of that shit going on. I think when you're a journalist and you're entering in with Trump, it's almost like entering into the octagon. You know, you got to put on your fighting gloves. I mean, the guy that one we talked about it a few episodes ago. The one guy that sent him that softball question that's like, "What do you have to say for people who are scared right now?" And Trump just says, "You're a bad reporter," and it's like, what do you mean? He just said you were like, what do you have to say to the American people right now? I'd say that's a nasty question. You're a bad reporter.
It's impossible for him to have any level of empathy, but
Yeah.
if why we expect it now, I don't know, but I think that in my opinion, our local governor of Arizona, Ducey, I think that he's done an acceptable job.
He's done an okay job. I think he shut down really early, which was a good call.
Yes, and that is the reason. And he shut down early. Our curve is starting to see glimpses of flattening, but he's still preparing for that spike. Now, one thing that I keep hearing everybody talking about is the model. The model says this. The model says that. The model. Oh my gosh, will someone please shut up Tyra Banks from talking? Everybody's talking about this model, the European model. It's kind of like when you forecast the weather. They got the European model. They got the space shuttle model. They got the Heidi Klum model. I mean, everybody's talking about these effing models when it comes to COVID-19. No one really knows. They're just putting data into a spreadsheet and hitting concatenate. No one knows what these things are actually going to do. But our governor, I think, has handled this well. He followed the footsteps of, I want to say, the state of Washington. We're trying to which they are definitely on their flattening. They've hit their peak and down. But our governor is our curve in Arizona is starting to flatten. There's glimpses of it, but he's also still putting in place provisions if there is a spike. They just opened up a hospital that has been closed for 2 years. St. Luke's Hospital, they opened the doors back up, giving Arizona another 338 ICU beds. I think that was a smart move. Yeah, other states are scrambling to put beds in stadiums, and we have a closed hospital and a new hospital that is being built that he's now put state funds behind to fast track the building of that hospital. I think he's made the smart moves. He may have been a little late, maybe a week behind shutting the state down as far as a shelter in place, which he didn't use that phrase, and I like the fact that he didn't use the phrase shelter in place. But I thought he was very proactive.
That's a fear word. That is a
and that's something that you hear when there's like bombshells being mortar shells being thrown over a city.
Yeah, and a lot of people, just to play devil's advocate, a lot of people would say Doug Ducey isn't doing a good job because he hasn't really put in any official law on making sure people aren't out and about.
But what he has done though is working.
Go ahead.
What he has done is showing signs of working.
Yeah. Well, and I think Arizona has this huge benefit, Phoenix in particular, we're not a city that grows up. We're a city that grows out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Point. Good
there's
point.
not a lot of there's not a lot of times where we're in elevators. There's not a lot of times where we're going upstairs. You know,
We don't have a
uh,
city
uh,
line.
yeah, for real. Peoria, Glendale, Phoenix. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
But
It's just more Phoenix. Where do you live?
yeah,
More Phoenix.
Tempe. It's Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like, come
More
on now.
Phoenix. East Phoenix.
That's and that's why we call it the Greater Phoenix area.
Yeah.
But this is a lot of inside baseball for anyone who doesn't live in Phoenix. They're like, what the fuck?
Google Map it,
But
bitch.
a lot of people say, oh, you want to meet me somewhere in Phoenix, and they how long does it take to get there? 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Everywhere in Phoenix is 30 minutes away. None of us are taking buses. We all have cars here because everything's so goddamn far away. So I mean, like, yeah, I think we have that edge.
I think he's done an acceptable job. It's not the greatest, but
Well, and our numbers aren't that high yet,
no, our numbers are not that high, and our
and they
numbers are
haven't
starting
been
to slow.
doubling like people said they would.
No.
They're only at 3,000 right now.
Right, and they're starting to slow just a little bit, and
Especially
I know,
in the past couple of days. Yeah,
and I know a person on the inside of the healthcare organization that
of
can
course you do.
testify to the fact that our hospitals are not overran right now. We're not, with people canceling elective surgeries and non-urgent healthcare issues. It has freed up, staffing, and it has freed up hospital beds. So I will say
Well,
that
the next big step at this point is when we start getting antibody testing, right? So then we can find out who's good to go, who's ready to go back to work. I think that's the next step on.
Yeah, we don't need to rush that. I really don't think
this.
we need to rush that. And I know that Orange Face
Well,
wants to kind of rush that. And
we don't need to rush it, but we do kind of need it because it is going to fuck our economy. And a lot of people are like, well, money is less important than a human life. And it's like, well, yeah, but ultimately the lack of money can cost some human lives here in the future. So,
and I think that there's equal arguments on both sides.
Yeah, we really have to think about it from both perspectives. How do we keep everyone safe? And also, how can we open up the economy in a safe way so that way everyone can go back to living their lives? It's not like the government can just pull money out of their ass, even though people think that's the case. It's not.
I can pull money out of my ass. Why can't the government?
Well, that's because you're a stripper. But
yes, I work. I don't work for Chip and Dale's. I work for Chip and Dip. And there's no cover charge to get in, but we do charge you to get out.
Oh.
And there's no charge to get off. Oh, welcome everybody. Hello.
Hello.
All right.
Hello.
Can we end the show on something silly?
Yeah, I think this whole show's been pretty silly. I really wanted to talk about some of the movies I've been watching.
Okay,
I'll save them till next week.
No, we can get to that if you want.
No, it's okay because I'm going to end up talking about it for another hour. So
Okay, all right.
we'll save it.
Hey, look at you doing a week-long tease.
Hell yeah, look at that.
You've been teasing me our entire friendship. All right, Jake.
Oh.
It's the Jake and Cory podcast version of This or That.
Okay.
Okay.
We
Jake.
need some sort of music there.
All right, Jake. Regular fries or crinkle cut fries?
Did we not do this?
No.
Okay. Crinkle cut.
Really?
No, I like regular fries.
Just the slim cut regular fries?
Yeah, I guess I could go either way. They're kind of the same shit, right?
I'm a crinkle cut guy. I like a crinkle cut fry.
I could go either way if I'm being serious. But like, what about those like Chick-fil-A fries?
Okay,
the
we're
ones
getting
that
to
are
that.
like crisscross.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Those are called the waffle fries. We'll get to that. Those are down the list.
Okay.
Wedge fries or curly fries? Wedge like the ones that you get from KFC,
yeah.
and curly fries like the one you get from Jack and a Crack.
Fuck. That's a tough one.
Yeah?
It really depends on the location. Because, like, Jack in the Box curly fries are kind of trash. But, you know, if you go to, I don't know, I like Arby's curly fries are really good. Yeah, I guess I'll go curly fries.
Dude, I am a wedge fry. Between wedges and
I love
curly,
them
I
too,
am
though.
wedge
Yeah,
all the time, bro.
yeah, I like what I think wedges go better with like fried chicken.
Burgers. Have you ever had the wedge fries at Red Robin?
Or like wedge fries with oh yeah, those are good.
Those are, and they're endless, bottomless fries. Oh my God. They just keep
Or like
shoving them
wedge
out to you.
fries with like a steak,
Yes.
like the seasoned wedge fries, like those go good with steak. But then like curly fries go really well with like a sandwich
I don't like the
or a
texture of a curly
burger.
fry. I don't know. I don't think a
They
potato
get a
was
little
meant to
slimy sometimes, don't they?
yeah, a potato isn't meant to bend.
Well, it's just the way that they're okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. Waffle fry or tater tots? Where do you stand on waffle
oh man, this
versus
is
tater
tough.
tot?
All these potato questions. Oh man, that's tough too.
Really?
I guess I'll go the tot, man.
I'm a tots guy. I
Yeah, I like tots.
Tots all day. Especially
Yeah, I
when
like the tots.
they're tossed in a very fine salt.
I do like myself a good waffle fry. The only problem I have with a waffle fry is it takes up a lot of space, so then you don't get as many fries.
I agree. Here's another this or that.
Mhm.
Cheese fries or poutine?
Oh fuck.
I didn't realize you were gonna have this big of a challenge between the two.
I think I got to go with the poutine, dude. Those cheese curds, the gravy,
Yes,
it's good shit.
poutine
Yeah.
all
Cheese,
day, baby.
but like cheese fries are so good too. Add some chili on that bitch. Ooh.
Chili cheese fries all day, but poutine over chili cheese fries. I'm with you on the poutine.
Yeah, poutine's great.
All right, final one. We're stepping away from the potato. Final one. Ketchup or mayo?
For what?
Just what do you prefer to dip your fries in? I'm sorry, yeah,
Oh,
to dip your fries in. Do you dip your fries in ketchup or do you dip your fries in mayo?
Mayo or ranch? Because like, who dips their fries in mayo?
There are quite a few people that dip their fries in mayo.
I guess ketchup, but typically I'll just eat the fry by itself.
You dry fry? You're a dry fry guy?
I'm sort of a dry fry guy. You know what I do like doing? I like mixing the ranch and the ketchup together.
See,
I'm
that's
into
what I
that.
would do. I would mix the ketchup and mayo together. And here's the thing for all of you
It's like Thousand Island dressing.
Yeah, for all you foodies out there, you mix ketchup and mayo and a little relish together, you have Thousand Island dressing.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. And it also comes pre-mixed at your local grocery store, and they call it fry sauce. It's nothing more than Thousand Island dressing.
I will say I hate relish. I hate it.
I love a good pucker. I love a good pucker. I love relish.
I hate sweet pickles. They're so gross.
Oh my gosh, sweet spicy pickles. I could eat them out of the jar like chips.
When they're sweet and spicy, I'm more okay with it. But just the sweet pickles, ugh.
I love
Nasty.
a good pickle.
Relish makes me want to throw up.
Relish makes
But-
you want to retch.
Yeah, makes me want to Ralph. Let me tell you a quick funny story about my youth.
Please.
And it has to do with what we're talking about. In my ute, when I was a ute.
When he was a young warthog.
When I was a young warthog. Seth Rogen. When I was a young lad, I didn't know what a French fry was, you know? I'd had potatoes, you know? But I didn't understand what a French fry was. So my entire youth, until I was probably like 7 years old, maybe 8 years old, I thought a fry was deep fried mayonnaise.
What? Really?
I thought it was deep fried mayonnaise. I thought that's just like what happened when you put mayonnaise in a fryer. Because that's just how good they were. I was like, this has to be like mayonnaise or butter. Because they're all creamy on the inside and stuff, you know?
At least
Yeah.
you were cute as a kid. At least you're pretty.
I was a dumb idiot. Anyway, it's been a good show.
Your ride's here.
Yeah, someone's honking outside.
And
Oh my
hey,
God.
ladies and gentlemen, that's just proof that we're doing these. He's doing the show from his home.
Well, I wonder if you can even hear it in my mic.
You got
I know you
a
can
birthday
hear it, but
parade going on outside. With COVID-19, birthday parades are a new big thing.
you know what's fun about this episode? This was like one of the first episodes where we didn't talk about the COVID thing for like an hour.
Yeah, but it was still in there.
It was in there. It's gonna be in there.
But I think we gave people a break, and I hope they enjoy that.
And next week, here's another tease. Next week, I'm just gonna tell you. I'm going to talk about all the things I've been watching because I've watched a few movies and I really want to talk about them.
I'm all in.
I was thinking about like making a YouTube video about some of these movies, but I decided I just kind of want to talk about them on here.
I'm all in.
Or,
Maybe you'll inspire me to watch some of them because, I normally watch things that are recommended to me. But I'm all in. And you know what? I quite honestly, I could use some things to watch throughout the week because on the weekend is when I watch all my DVR.
Since you're such a boomer.
I'm not a boomer.
You're a boomer. You watch Masked Singer.
That's because I like Robin Thicke.
Yeah, he's thick. He's the one with that song about rape, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Blurred Lines.
Yes.
Yeah, but since you're such a boomer.
I'm not a boomer.
I would love to make a new segment in this show eventually called Cory Gets Cultured.
The boomer moment.
It'll be like we'll have you like watch a movie or maybe watch an episode of a television show, read a comic book maybe.
Yeah, that ain't happening. Hey, I have done that.
When
I
this
watched
quarantine's
Joker.
over, we could do it together. It'll be a nice moment.
Can we cut a hole in the bottom of the popcorn?
hang out.
Can we cut a hole in the bottom of the popcorn bucket?
It's my dick in a box. All right.
Hey, I did.
Well,
I have done that. I watched Joker because of you.
That's true, and I think we should do that more.
Okay.
Anyway, I think we should end the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another Jake and Cory podcast. Make sure that you are subscribing to our YouTube channel and sharing it on all your social media. Invite a friend. It's a good break from all of the quarantine stuff that you've got going around. It's the Jake and Cory podcast on YouTube and now available on Apple Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.